What's up, guys? Welcome in to another episode of Football and Random Things. I'm Connor Ferguson here with Jeff Woody and Colin Newell on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network, fueled by Cody Road. Real quick before we get started, big shout out to Wiffles Hybrid. They're our presenting sponsors. And of course, we're here at the Wild Rose Casino Studio. And I spilt this NOS earlier, and I kind of want to sponsor the puddle.
Is there a puddle sponsor?
I think we could, yeah.
We get a puddle sponsor.
Absolutely.
Man, UNI week, finally, like game week, because this has been the worst offseason of all time, to take Chris's take, but it's just there's nothing new to talk about. And yesterday we were arguing about mobile Apple wallets is what it's called, and then fonts on the bridge. So we're back to normal now, arguing about things that don't matter.
PSA as again, you can't for those that didn't hear Chris's thing, you can't screenshot your tickets anymore. So if you're going into Jack Trice, download it to your Apple Wallet, or if you have an Android device, is it Google Wallet or whatever? Download it offline. If you're not sure how to do that, talk to one of your tech savvy friends, kids, cousins, whatever, so you can actually get it offline. Because
or Google it too.
Google
that can help you very much, and just try to follow it perfectly step by step.
But yes, you cannot screenshot it. So also, that being said, there will be probably a good contingent of people that still try and do that, are going to have to then download it afterwards. They're going to get pulled off the side. So the lines getting in for this first game might take longer than normal. So if you normally leave like 10 minutes before kickoff to get to your seats, maybe make that 20 minutes before kickoff to get to your seats, because I think the admission line is going to take a little bit longer than normally does. So PSA, download your stuff.
Before we get in this is my most old person take yet. Just go back to paper. It worked. It was easy. It worked.
Or enable it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just weird.
Paper tickets are easy.
Or have them special order. That's a good idea.
There you go.
You know, I want my
paper tickets. That should be an easy thing to do.
And I know people that like kept tickets from like every sporting event they went to, and my friend was so mad that they got rid of paper tickets here.
Yeah, write the score on it. Big wins. Oklahoma State.
He just had. Yeah, he has his Oklahoma State ticket. He had a NASCAR race I took him to. It was just insane that. He was yelling about it around the fraternity for like a week. But yeah, it's Northern Iowa week. You guys both played a few games against
three
UNI.
times.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As fans, I think everyone kind of looks at this game and goes, "Oh man, it's gonna be a pesky UNI game. What the heck is gonna happen in this one? How in the world is it gonna turn into a close game?" Did you guys look at it at all like that?
The way that you'd always approach it, so you knew that you were getting their best shot, and what that means isn't necessarily that like they're going to play individually better than they otherwise would, because like everyone's motivated for every game, and there is a little bit of chip on your shoulder. You're going to play better, but like the coaching staff is going to have stuff specifically schemed to mess with you. Like they are 100% going to prepare for that, and that's the thing that you always kind of knew going in, is that you're going to get some weird stuff. And they already run a different front than what you normally see. Like they run a 3-down front, but they have like an overhang player, like just an edge player. I don't know what they call him, like an edge player that is Von Miller body type, kind of, where like he's a linebacker, but he's kind of a defensive end. And so sometimes they'll play an odd front, meaning their nose guard is head up. And then they'll play, sort of like Iowa State's front looks a little bit, but then other times they'll shift that nose guard to a shade and then play like a true even front, and they'll mix those in the same drive with the same personnel. So like once they do that, the other thing that is weird is so you're going to get you're going to get odd fronts and even fronts in and back and forth. And Colin can talk about like how different and important that is to make sure that you get that right. But then the other thing is that they know that they are smaller than you. They're always going to be smaller than Iowa State. They played Wisconsin every once in a while. So what they do to counteract that is they move a ton, slants, twists, blitzes. They drop somebody out or they delay something. Like there is so much movement and there's so much everything. So when you're going into UNI week, you're going to get some weird stuff, and you're going to get some stuff that is specifically designed to screw with you. And always, their talent isn't that much worse than you. Like they're not that much worse than you are. Their backups, like if you can wear down their starters and you start put their backups in, that's when the difference starts to show. But like their starters are pretty damn good. So that was always that. You knew you're in for a fight. You were going to get some weird stuff, and you were going to get a lot of movement from the front seven.
Well, let's just face it. I mean, they put guys in the NFL the last couple of years.
Yeah, 2 offensive linemen, first-round draft picks.
And they've done a good job of developing guys. They always have strong kids. They have kids that come out and play, a lot of Iowa kids. So it means something to them, you know. A lot of these kids probably wanted to go to Iowa State or Iowa and didn't get the opportunity. So here they are. Hey, I got to go play the school that I wanted to go to. And I'm sure someone wanted to go to UNI as well, but it's one of those things that if people want to go somewhere and they don't get to go there, they get to go play them. And that's a special opportunity as well.
I need a pick from both you guys if a good UNI team. Actually, let's do the best UNI team either of you face. Would they win the MAC?
Would they win the Mid-American Cup, like the MAC?
If they went to the MAC, would they win the what?
Maybe. Yeah, like the really good ones, the teams
agree.
that we played. I think they, with the level that they when UNI is good, the level that they execute is really, really high.
Yep.
The talent they have is pretty MAC. I mean, the Missouri Valley Conference is
the SEC of the FCS, right?
And it's because the SEC has the Big Ten that, like, as a fair, almost equal rival. The MVC, the Missouri Valley, doesn't have a rival. Right. They are way the best, and it's not close. It's South Dakota State, it's North Dakota State, it's Northern Iowa. I mean, they are by far and away the best conference, and so you're playing essentially the equivalent of a MAC or a WAC school. So like I think that they would probably compete to be towards the top of the MAC if they were there. The problem is just scholarship availability. So like the depth over the course of a season would be a problem. Like,
gotcha.
One of the other reasons that UNI is tough is that you're playing them in week 1. So they are as healthy and as fresh as they're going to be. If you were to play UNI in week 9, you would kick the shit out of UNI because they're going to have lost a good number of starters, and the backups at a Power 5 school, especially a quality Power 5 school that's recruited well, the depth there is way better than the depth just because there's 85 scholarships versus I think 60 that you can use. So like when given the choice, if you have a guy who's, like I don't know, I didn't get a scholarship from either one of them, so not bitter about that at all. But like a guy who's like me, I'm probably not starter level. Like I'm not starting tailback level, but good enough to be a serviceable backup anywhere. They don't have a me at UNI. They have me starting at UNI, but they don't have a me as a third stringer who can then fill in fairly adequately for everybody else. And so like your backups and your backups, that's where the depth starts to become a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, I mean, looking at the depth chart here, the size difference of the Iowa State offensive line and Iowa State defensive line and safeties. I mean, there's just a significant difference in the size of human beings. Obviously, they have big left tackle and Penning's brother. Is that right?
Yeah. Trevor Penning was the one that he was the first round draft pick for the Saints.
Yep.
And now his brother Jared is the starting left tackle. And like, I would imagine he's also going to get drafted. I remember I was watching, it was in the end zone last time UNI played in Ames. I don't remember when that was, but I remember watching
2021
Spencer Brown and Trevor Penning and looking at both of them being like, those dudes are dirty, just dirty. And then turned out later that both those guys got drafted.
Yeah.
Did you pay attention to Clanton when he was there?
No.
Like, did you know he was that good? No.
No, you don't. I'm not paying attention to the offensive line.
Well, I didn't know why are you looking at the offensive line? Just because
you have to. It's football. You watch the offensive line. That's how you know what's happening.
I think watch the quarterback. We'll get around that.
Yeah,
we got a good.
Depending on who you're looking at, is what you see, what you play is what you watch.
I didn't know if you were watching them in warmups or something like that.
No.
One thing that I think will be huge for this game too is Clayton. He's gone against this defense. He knows how they scheme Iowa State. He knows what they're going to look for. He knows how to trick eyes on the defense. He knows what plays are susceptible to big plays where in a game you might not figure that out every time. Or hey, let's really hammer this 3 or 4 times, and maybe they got lucky on it one time and stopped it. But I know, hey, this guy right here, like he's susceptible to his eyes mistreating him or anything like that. So I think that's a huge value add that we have on our. I mean, he was with them 12 months ago.
Yeah, and I think you're talking about like what they're susceptible to. I think also knows personality wise. Yeah, what can get to him? Like sort of if there's a guy who, if you start trash talking him, he starts talking back. You take him out of his game or something like that.
Oh yeah, and Clanton knows exactly.
He knows the personality type. So like he knows if there's a guy. I don't know. I know that TJ Tampa, like for example, is a notoriously good trash talker. If you got a guy that's like Tampa, and you can tell him, be like, hey, that X receiver, Like, if you get talking to him, he's going to start talking back, and he is going to start taking pot shots at you just because he's getting so frustrated. Like, chirp his ear off. Like, all right. Like, that is sort of an X Factory thing that you get an idea on the personalities and the personnel. And I think the other thing about having Clanton around is that Farley, especially defensively, Farley is stubborn enough that he's not going to change anyway. It's like Ferentz, Phil Park. I mean, hell, John Haycox is similar. Like, Haycock's not going to change the defense for one game just to try and screw with a coach that's going to be around there. So Clanton knowing that UNI defense and what they're susceptible to, and Farley sticking with it, means that they're going to have a little bit better handle on what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think even for Coach Haycock, I mean, Coach Haycock obviously does his thing, but hey, if he knows what the thought process of that offense is, even just at another level, that's a huge advantage for that defense. And for him to say, hey, this is what we like to do on third down. I mean, Coach Haycock knows all that, but any bit of information from a true insider like he was is a huge advantage.
Absolutely. And what I was kind of getting into is when I watched like live, especially from the press box or like from when I was watching from the student section, if I watched the line, like it would confuse me because I would take my eyes off a receiver, a running back, and maybe on that play I'd see a sack on one of the 10 plays I watched the line, but the other 9, I'm like, where'd the ball go? What are we doing? So I go back and I'll replay it, and I still need ADHD brain. It takes me like 3 replays. I'm like, where did he like slide in? How did he get to the quarterback there? And like, that's where I'll watch the line matchup. But I'm really excited to see it with how recent Clint, like first game with your new team. I don't know how often that happens. Obviously, get hired from UNI to Iowa State, you're probably likely to have it happen. But I'm really excited to see that matchup, especially with whatever Shieldhouse brings up with it. Have you guys heard about kind of like what his philosophy, what type of offense he's going to run?
I'm guessing Campbell's not going to let it go too far away.
Right.
Because I think that's the complementary football. Like, it's a thing that Campbell's really big into. And I think the way when you have one of the strong position groups, if you're looking at the depth chart came out yesterday, 2 days ago, their tight ends and fullback groups are Easton Dean starting 6'6", 265. Gabe Burkle, backup tight end, 6'5", 260. Benjamin Brommer, who is by all appearances, or by all conversation, really, really good, 6'7", 240. Stevel Klotz, starting fullback, 6'4", 260. Tyler Moore, backup fullback, not tight ends, which means he's going to play in different fronts and different positions, 6'5", 260. So, like, your average weight is 260, and the average height's 6'6" of your tight end group. Like, those big dudes. You're not going to call away from that when that's your... So, like, you're going to be playing around with these multiple tight end fronts that we've seen for a while. So I don't think it's going to be that different.
But I know they have a few packages along those lines.
The way they're going to get to it might be different, but I think the fronts, the timing, the tempo, like, it's probably going to be, I don't know, similar.
Those are big dudes for a young quarterback, inexperienced quarterback to throw to too.
And young running
backs. Throwing 5-10 yard outs, whatever it may be. That's a good opportunity for a quarterback to get settled. And I mean, we saw Brock do that for years with Charlie and Chase and Sainer and all those guys, where that tight end can be a huge value asset to get a guy going, to get him comfortable, to see completions and see that offense start to churn.
Well, and if you were talking about like the size difference between Northern Iowa and Iowa State. Now, granted, again, we talked about UNI. They move a ton, super aggressive. They're going to bring 7 zillion pressures. They're going to have 5,000 stunts. But you just look at like the size. So we just went to the tight ends. Like, look at the size of the offensive line. 6'6" for Iowa State, 6'6", 330. Backup, 6'7", 300. Hufford, 6'5", 325. Boniface, 6'5", 310. Schreiber, 6'6", 325. Tyler Mills, 6'9", 335. That's Iowa State's offensive line. Add to the tight end group. Huge. You look at Northern Iowa's defensive front seven. Cordarius Bailey, who is a 9th-year senior.
7th-year senior. We were the same year of college. We went in 2017, graduating class high school, and he's still playing. So good to see him land on his feet.
6'3", 240 as a D end. And they have one big buddy, Christian Boyd, who's their defense tackle, 6'4", 317. If you look at the rest of their front seven, other D tackles, 6'6", 260. Relative to 330, smaller. The other defensive end is 6'5", 250. A decent size. Nickel, 6'3", 200. Inside linebacker, 6'4", 230. Other inside linebacker, 6'2", 220. Like, the size difference that Iowa State has, the size advantage you have, is substantial. Now it's a matter of, can you execute against that? But when you're talking about like, what is Shieldhouse's offense going to look like? Probably pretty similar, because if you're saying where's our advantage against most teams, It's the fact that we've got sequoia trees that are going to be offensive linemen and tight ends going against other fronts.
I think just trusting that young offensive line too, see what these running backs are able to do, get the quarterback settled. And I mean, we've heard violence all off season, right? From Coach Clanton, like, hey, that's a really good opportunity to go out there and be violent when you're 60 pounds heavier than another person that you're going against, and get some double teams moving and see how that stuff all works out there.
What did you just compare Iowa State's offensive linemen to trees? Objects that don't move.
Yeah, I did.
Traffic cones.
Traffic cones.
Well, objects that don't move.
Well, no,
just go around them. That's not very nice.
Have you
Jeff.
seen a sequoia in person?
They're humongous.
Enormous.
Probably.
Enormous.
I don't know. I have no idea what a sequoia tree looks like.
You would. Okay. Man, this is.
We don't need to go into sequoia trees. Again,
they have like a 16-foot.
I have
like a 16-foot diameter.
I have a personal goal by the end of the season to get one position group of football players nationwide mad at you. I'm working on it.
The thing is, remember you said Google, so you can just go ahead and Google this.
It's a sequoia tree.
Like, oh, I know what that is.
That's a big tree.
I don't even know how to spell this. Real quick before we get off the line, did anything surprise you from Iowa State's depth chart as far as where players were slotted in positions? I had a lot of people reach out to me and go, Daryl Simmons and Hufford are in the same spot. What's going on? And I know Clanton wants to teach everybody all 5 positions and play the best 5 guys. So that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to both play left guard.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is Coach Campbell, Coach Clanton. They're going to put the best guys out there.
That is a big tree. You're right.
They're going to put the best guys out there in the best position for themselves and for the team ultimately. So we'll see who trots out there, where they trot out there on Saturday. Depth charts are depth charts, and you can play as many games as you want with them, but depth charts don't win you games. So I think we should cool the horses maybe a little bit on that and just see kind of where everything shakes out when Saturday comes at 1:00 and who runs out there with the one offensive line. But it wouldn't surprise me if you see some stuff that maybe you wouldn't expect, or see some guys moving around for sure.
Absolutely. And then one last thing on the offense, and we kind of discussed this last week, Jeff, after the show, but Greg Gaines not on the depth chart.
Yeah, that was it's a little surprising, but at the same time, there's the or count here is pretty substantial. I think with this first week, you're going to, especially because it's UNI, you're going to want to get off to a decent start. Not like you're trying to throw the kitchen sink at somebody, like you're trying to execute. If you can get up 10-3 or 14-0 or something like that, you're going to see a lot of guys play, because it's one thing to play in spring ball, and it's one thing to play during fall camp, and it's one thing to play when you're down to TCU by 50 points. It's one thing in games that don't matter. It's another thing when there's some amount of pressure on what's happening, which I think that's a thing that Campbell rolls the dice. I don't want to say rolls the dice up, is calculated rolling of the dice more than most other coaches. Is there'll be times like defensively, like I remember last year or a couple of years ago, you have like, it's the middle of the fourth quarter, you're playing, I don't know, fill in the blank, Baylor, and they're driving and they're inside the red zone, and Kendall Jackson is out there at will linebacker instead of, whoever the actual starter is. And you have someone else, you have like Miles Mendezoon at playing linebacker instead of Orion Vance. And it's just because they're going to rotate. Like they're going to put guys in pressure situations a lot more frequently. So when I was playing, like your 5 offensive linemen or your 5 offensive linemen until it's like 28 points and it's 3 minutes to go in the fourth quarter and the game doesn't matter anymore. You feel that the game doesn't matter anymore. You can play really loose. You want to see what guys can do when when stuff actually matters. And so I think it's really easy with skill position players like running backs and wide receivers to get 15 guys snaps. It's harder with the offensive line to do that, but I still would expect, like, if you just look at the snap list in the first half of Saturday's game, I bet the snap list is probably 25 guys of who's going to get snaps between running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and then I bet 8 to 10 offensive linemen play at some point in the first half. So like, it's going to be, don't get too married to this depth chart, like Colin was saying, and also expect to see a lot of guys like have a program ready being like, who's number 16 Sam Jackson. Got it. Okay. Like, be ready for that, because there's going to be a lot of guys
Go pick up your roster, especially if you're a person that likes to zero in on one player and watch one guy or something like that, so you can at least learn a little bit about him.
Yeah, for sure. I think that we'll see guys play, and let's be honest here, Jeff. We can both admit, like, that first game of the year, there's a little more excitement.
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? There's excitement for every game, but like, you've been hitting your teammates for 8 months now. You're ready to go hit somebody else, and
the adrenaline hit that Jack Trice gives is different than anything.
Yeah, and there's 60,000 people.
Does it hit the same with smoke on the water? Because I'm not
smoke on the water, man. That is like the.
I liked it when I was a kid. I think now, like, I'll admit it was kind of cringy.
Yeah,
but
I mean, you're amped regardless. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, you're still at like a 9.
You got 60,000 people yelling at you as you're running into a football stadium.
The smoke is there, so like, it doesn't really matter what the sound is for your experience to get like amped. But it could be a little better if it wasn't a slow tempoed rock song from 1965.
And there's also music going in the locker room before.
Right.
So that's going to probably be what gets most people's, juices rolling and everyone ready to go, and the mindset like, hey, we're about to go play football, and we're about to go win a game here.
Absolutely. We'll have to see what the entrance song ends up being, because there's going to be people arguing about it.
Luckily, you guys, I mean, you only came out of the tunnel. We had to go. We came straight out from where the band is, and like would come from the Olsen building for the first few years. And
you guys would walk through the bottom of it, right?
Right. So you go down the stairs from like if you've been in, we're like the little the Cyclone Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Excuse me, is in the Jacobson building. And you go down the stairs, and then you come out directly from the north end zone, and it's centered. And you know what else is centered in the north end zone?
Goalpost.
A goalpost. So you completely obscuring your line of sight by putting smoke on there. So I would always like push my way to the outside and just run as far to the left or right as I possibly could until I got to the goalpost, and then you come back around. Because I remember it was the year before I got there. There was just this huge pileup as people running out, because you couldn't friggin' see it. So I think somebody just smoked a goalpost, and they back up into somebody else, and there's like a traffic jam. So yeah, luckily,
we gotta find the film on that.
Get all amped up.
That'd be an interesting one. I'd certainly be.
It's nice to not have to worry about that. I'll just say that.
Yeah, absolutely. I can understand that.
Yeah, we'll see what I think. Chris said he didn't remember what song they were supposed to do. I think it was supposed to be Fireman by Lil Wayne.
Which would make sense, because there's sirens in there.
Sirens, and there's big fire sticks, the little.
It's Lil Wayne.
That wasn't approved. Not that it got denied, but I don't know if it got approved for Saturday. So we'll see.
We'll see. One other thing about the offensive line, I love the fact that the center is named Jim. Like, that is the most offensive line thing. It's not James, it's Jim.
And it's Boniface, right?
Yeah.
Because it looks like it should be Boniface.
It's Boniface.
I know.
Yes.
Did you play with Jim?
Yeah, I did.
Is he a Jim? Like a very offensive line guy? Like
he's a cool dude.
Hunting, fishing, drinking Busch Light.
I like Jim. He's a good dude.
Yeah. Colin's being the offensive line guy you're describing right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's every offensive lineman.
No, Jim's an awesome guy for sure. Like a dude's dude.
Yeah, good.
He's a good dude.
On the defensive side, we've heard a ton about Jack Sadowski. I thought it was very interesting. We got him without an or next to his name.
And the guy who he took over was a transfer from Mizzou, like a starter at Mizzou, transfers up to Iowa State, sort of with the expectation that he's going to play.
He was a pretty highly touted recruit before Mizzou too.
And Sadowski, as a true freshman, comes and takes a spot. And I think one of the things that if you come in with the right attitude, and I don't know, Colin, you probably had the same thing, is like, F you, play me. Like, I'm going to make it so hard for you to not put me on the field that if you elect to not put me on the field, the entire team is going to question your sanity. Like, that's the kind of way that you go about it. And I'm guessing because he did start in front of a guy who they were expecting to come in and start, that's just the way that he played. It's like everybody on the team knows, like, all right, that dude deserves to be on the field.
It's kind of crazy. You look at his size too, as a true freshman, 6'2", 245. That's a
big boy.
It's a big dude. That's bigger than any of the UNI linebackers that are juniors and seniors. And as a freshman, he's ready to roll. And I mean, you got to have that mass in the Big 12 and any college football,
especially at Mike in this defense,
to be able to handle the force that you're going to take and the hits that you're going to run through. So it's good to see that he's got some size on him, and really excited to see what he can go out there and do, and have big first game as freshman.
So for both of you guys, aside from just doing their jobs, getting a fast start in this game, and maybe something unique, what is the key for Iowa State to making this a blowout and making this a game where you get those rotational pieces in, as opposed to what we've kind of seen in the last, I don't know, 6 of the last 8 UNI games or something like that have been relatively close.
I think it's not, like they're going to come out and throw a big first punch. They're going to come out and they're going to throw everything that they have.
Day is getting a 50-yard pass on his first drive.
Maybe
not 50. I'll go 25.
They're going to come out and bring everything they got. This is a big in-state game, and it's just really important that, hey, we weather those punches and we throw a couple back ourselves and have some big plays. I think that nothing would be more cool to see than Coach Shieldhouse coming out here and having a couple big plays dialed up and really just break this thing open and just say, hey, yeah, we are Iowa State and you are UNI. Like let's treat it how it is and let's take care of business right from the start.
Well, the thing that I would say when you're playing Northern Iowa too is they will never stay on the mat. Like that's the thing that you can 100% count on from a Northern Iowa team. And so even if you get up 10-3 or 10-0, or they throw an interception, you drive it down for a touchdown, like in a UFC fight, like they're, like a Nate Diaz, like back in the day, where like his eyes are exploded, he's bleeding everywhere, and he's still the aggressor in the fight. Like they might lose, and he might get, significant strikes. He might get knocked down. He might lose every single round 10-8, but he's going to still be the aggressor. He's going to come back up no matter how much he's bleeding. Like that's the way that Northern Iowa plays. So you can't go into this game thinking that like, if we flex our muscles and we get up 14-0, or we, run it down their throat or whatever, that they're just going to roll over and die. Like that ain't going to happen. Mm-hmm. So what's going to need to happen? I mean, not necessarily crude metaphor, but like beat them till they're knocked out. Like to the point where if you have a 21-3 lead, cool, get it 28-3. Like don't relax until they have put their subs in, or the game is so far out of hand that it doesn't matter. Because if you relax for 1 second, instantly they're going to come. They're, tough, they're skilled, they're athletic, they're whatever. So like it is not a thing that you can just let up. And that's the thing with Northern Iowa, is that a lot of times you get in these games, like last year with SEMO is expecting to lose that game by a substantial amount. So you get up by 21 or whatever it is, and they're like, this cool opportunity. God, we had fun, guys.
6,000.
Yeah, that's not Northern Iowa. So like you get up 14, 21 points, whatever it is, they're going to come back. Like be aggressive until they are knocked out on the floor, and that's when you can actually start to relax a little bit.
And I think just to point off that is like, hey, some big plays and doing some big things, like that confidence for some of these guys, like being able to, hey, we're running the ball. This offensive line is just taking care of business. Hey, this quarterback, he's a real deal. Hey, this defense, we're filling in some of these spots where we're a little bit younger and they're making big plays. I think if we can just get some confidence going, some juice going, it's a huge opportunity for us to go out there and just take care of business.
I would also say another thing to make sure that in order to win this game, to win it as comfortably as you'd want to. And I don't think I wouldn't expect like a blowout, but like 30-14 type thing. And if you can, what Iowa State needs to do to handle Northern Iowa is you have to be able to mind your P's and Q's, because the thing that UNI is going to do, whether it's offensively or defensively, is they are going to stress test your discipline. Like your communication on the offensive line. We already talked about how much they move and slant and stuff like that. If your communication on the offensive line isn't good, and you can't pass off a twist, or you can't, there's a whole line slant, there's going to be a looping blitzer that comes in, whatever. If you can't pass it off and communicate it, you're going to get a TFL on a second down, and now you're 3rd and 14, and now they're going to tee somebody off to go get the quarterback, and all of a sudden you went 3 and out, and you didn't expect to go 3 and out because your discipline was bad on second down. So like that, you have to mind your P's and Q's. You have to communicate. You have to the base discipline stuff. If that's good, Iowa State wins this comfortably. If they're not quite there yet because it's new coaching staff or new players, or they haven't meshed together, whether it's offensive line, defensive line, communicate, whatever, the communication and your discipline as a team gets tested hard against Northern Iowa.
Efficiency.
It's all efficient.
If we can go be efficient and stay in front of the sticks and not have that situation where we're getting TFLs and we're on 3rd and 13s, 3rd and 12s, anything like that, I think we'll be pretty happy.
All right. Well, I got 3 random things we can talk about. It's uniform, Steele Jantz, and chirping. So you pick one, Jeff.
Anytime you can talk about Steele Jantz.
I want your best Steele Jantz story.
Did I not talk about the first time, or like the Steele Jantz and the pickup truck story?
You might have on, because I've listened to every episode, but I don't remember specifically.
This isn't a my Steele Jantz story. This is somebody else. This is Ethan Tufte, who is a guard. Steele didn't have a car in Iowa, and so he would always hitch a ride with somebody, and Ethan and Steele lived near each other, not in the same apartment complex, but near enough that like Ethan could just drop him off on his way home. So Steele's like, "Hey, can I get a ride?" And Tuffy's like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." And he was moving a rocking, not a rocking chair, like a lazy boy for somebody in the bed of his pickup. And Steele, instead of getting in the cab, just goes and sits in the recliner in the bed of the pickup. And I think he's just only going to like, what's the place over by the golf course? On
an apartment
by the veterinary building, by Coldwater, like whatever that apartment complex. That's where he was living.
Complex,
yeah, that complex. He was living there, so it's not far.
Fair Ridge or something.
Not far. So anyway, sitting in the back. Apparently, this is what Tufte said. Is apparently it was one of those recliners where like the armrest lifted up that you could store something in there, like a TV remote or whatever. Yeah. And there's apparently just a whiskey bottle that was in there, and it had less than a fifth, but like enough in there. And apparently between the facility and the apartment complex, Steele sitting back there, it was full at the football facility. It was empty at the apartment complex. So Steele Jantz would have been in the bed of a pickup, sitting in a lazy boy, finishing off whiskey in less than 3 to 5 minutes.
You think it was 3 to 5 from there to that?
Oh, that's pretty quick.
Oh yeah, that's quick. It's literally, it's the apartment complex by Coldwater.
Yeah.
That ain't far. Yeah. So it might be apocryphal because Tufte's an exaggerated narrator sometimes, like just telling a good story, but like that sounds pretty on brand.
I mean, either way, it's a good story.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, it's accurate enough.
And
I like it. He's one of my favorite players to watch of all time. So
yeah, good story. Steele for Heisman.
Oh yeah, there's 3. There was the first 3 weeks I was convinced.
Everyone was
from play alone. Steele, the UConn game, we attempted 4 passes. Steele threw 3 interceptions in those first 4 passes, and then from the remaining part of the game, I think he had like 3 incompletions. Like, come on, man, just even it out a little bit, buddy.
Let's spread them out throughout the game.
Let's not dig ourselves that much of a hole. But hey, thanks for cleaning it up.
The Texas A&M game, the last time they came to Ames, Steele threw over Josh Lenz's head on a 3-yard slant and threw an interception.
Well, there was also
and then came back. He was solid the rest of the game. They were still in it through the fourth quarter. It's just like, what are you doing? How does he go from here to there?
Physical, an absolute freak. I mean, he would lift with the wide receivers. Like
he was a big dude, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, and he was every bit of like 6'2", 6'3", and like fast freak athlete.
Yeah,
we'll get into uniforms next week. I do want to hear the best chirp you guys ever heard on the field, whether it was directed at you or someone else.
Ooh.
I mean, there's a lot. My last name is Woody. There's a lot.
It feels like you got a lot that weren't very clever, though.
Yeah, there's a lot that aren't very clever. The ones you get a ton from the drunks in the stands. There's Where's Buzz? That happened a lot. Woody's got a Woody. That's another one that happened every single location. There wasn't a ton that it was super creative. I got called. We got called White Boy a ton. Did you ever get milk called? No. I was watching Bussin' with the Boys. Was it Josh Allen? I think he was talking about it.
Compton couldn't. The fact that he kept having to ask what that meant. So, I never got that. The worst trash talk was Baylor when it was one of the years. It was during the Art Briles years because we only played him during the Art Briles years, and it was during the investigation. I mean, it was post. The guys that were on the defense were some of the ones that were involved in that, which was, again, awful. And there was a guy, I was the backside, like a nub tight end, like fullback position. And we were running a zone play to that side. So it was my job, just outside defender, whoever the E-gap player is just walk him to the sideline. And it's a corner. He's like $185. Just get a hands in his chest plate. Like it's into the boundary. He was on the sideline and he was like, is that all you got? And I was like, you're on the bench, man. This is not exactly the moment to try and trash talk I've walked you 15 yards away.
That's always the best when you hear like the guy like not in Jersey or in Jersey, but like on the sideline, no pads or anything like that. And he's like the one that's chirping the most. Oh, yeah. Like, oh, nice. Nice.
Good job, buddy. Good job, buddy. You really earned that.
I would say the Louisiana game in 2020, the first game of the season there, COVID year, dead quiet stadium, obviously.
Yeah.
And they had some big defensive linemen. And I don't even remember. It was a hot day. And like all of us big dudes from Iowa are on the offensive line. Like, y'all a bunch of fat white boys out here. And we're like all breathing heavy, and like they're think it's cold out here because they're coming up from Louisiana practices, and we're out here like freaking dying and trying to stay alive and get our water and stuff. And
it's total opposite effect of what Texas comes up here in November like.
The complete opposite. Yeah. And he said a couple more things, but man, oh man, that was one of the times where like we all just looked at each other. We're all like trying to catch our breath, and we're like, yeah, you're right. You're really not wrong. You're correct. You're not wrong, but. That was a good one.
Awesome. Well, I think we're good. Get everything off your chest this week.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing is like as far as expectation setting for the fans when you're watching this game on Saturday, things to either not get worked up on or whatever is Northern Iowa's going to throw some weird stuff, especially early. So if the game starts out and it's 0-0 for the whole first quarter, don't be like, our offense stinks. Like, don't do that because
those are just fans that don't learn from repetition. We've seen plenty of games like that.
Right. And everything's new. So you have to get a feel for the play call. I mean, the play call is going to be fine. I think Campbell's going to have enough of a hand in that to make sure that Shieldhouse is comfortable with it. There's going to be enough offense. The offensive line is going to be prepped. I think they're going to have an idea what's going to go on. But UNI is going to throw some weird stuff. Like no matter how much Clanton may know, they're going to throw some weird stuff. You can do a zillion different things. And so the game might start slowly on the offense. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Just notice what is successful and what isn't successful. What was it outside runs or inside runs, or it looks like we're moving the line of scrimmage, but not quite seeing it or whatever. Like there might be a slow start and that's okay. I think the other thing would be the professor's gambit. Jared and I would talk about it every single game is you don't know how the opposing offense is going to attack this defense because Theo Day hasn't played Iowa State. So how are they going to call against this defense? Generally, Haycock calls it pretty vanilla. For the first 2 or 3 drives, is not going to call blitzes, not going to call pressures. We're not going to fade or try and choke anything off. We're not going to try and push anybody or pressure. Not just going to. How are you going to come at us? What are the things that you want to do? Oh, okay. You want to access the C gap? We're going to take away the C gap. Now what else you got? It's the Belichick school of thought of what do you want to do? And I'm going to take away that thing. If you can beat me with your B game, you can beat me, but you're not going to beat me with your A game. And they just, for the first 2 or 3 drives, Haycock will just let them show what is your A game? What do you want to do in this game against this front? So the game might start, if you pair both of those things, it might be a slightly slow offensive start because you're still figuring things out. It also might not be, who knows, but like it might be a slow offensive start and the defense might give up a few good drives for Northern Iowa because they're going to play it vanilla. They don't know how they're going to be attacking it. But as the game goes on, the offense is likely to figure it out a little bit better. And the defense is going to then identify what your thing you want to do and take that away. And then from that point, game on. So like first quarter, if it ain't as good as you want it to be, like keep the boo birds in your pocket for sure. And just expectations wise, I'm going in thinking that the first quarter is going to be like 7-3 in either direction. And then the second quarter, by the time the second quarter is done, Iowa State's pulled up to a little bit like a slight lead. Third quarter, fourth quarter starts to pull away because they've identified what UNI wants to do. So it might be like tight through the third quarter, whatever. By the time fourth quarter comes around, it's like, oh, this game's 28-10. How'd that happen? Like that's
we're dominating.
Yeah, that's sort of what it feels like. Is what I'm expecting to have happen. Is the first 20 minutes of the game is going to be a little bit rough, a little bit feel everybody out, and then from that point it kind of stretches out.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. I think that the physicality is going to be a huge aspect. I mean, just the size of these guys, and if the offensive line is bringing physicality to practice every day, then everyone else is going to too. So we can tee off on them a little bit, and should be a fun one.
And we talked about depth, how Iowa State's depth is better than UNI's depth. It's gonna be 95 on Saturday. Mm-hmm. Like at a certain point, there's going to be, whether it's offensive line for UNI's offensive line getting tired, you're going to see cramping. You're going to see guys getting just exhausted because it's hot and they are tired.
Zapping it.
I mean, it is going to happen. And so the backups for Iowa State are going to come in. Whether not even, I mean, you're going to rotation.
And that'll be good either way with how many new players you have, the young guys. And it feels like that 2023 class, there's 6 really impact players that could get some time on Saturday. That'd be really big for them. And having that solid 2 deep is massive in the Big 12.
Right. So and UNI being shallower in depth generally than Iowa State is, that's where that 3rd and 4th quarter comes in, where your starting nose guard has calf cramps. Your backup nose guard is then the quote starter, and then his backup are rotating back and forth. So you're going against a 3rd string defensive lineman in the middle of the 3rd quarter in a 95-degree weather against a team that's bigger, deeper, stronger, and faster than you. So I think start slow over the course of time. The Iowa State size and depth should hopefully spread this game out. So that's what I'm expecting, is this game to be close early and spread out as the game goes on.
I'm in the Wild Rose Bet Rivers betting contest this year. So my first bet will be over for the 3rd quarter on Saturday, and then Iowa State
under in the first half.
Under in the first half.
Under in the first half.
Over in the 3rd quarter, and Iowa State -6.5.
I'd take that.
Okay. So we'll parlay all of those and hope for the best.
Sure.
All right. I'd put 100 on it right off the bat.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know how much money I start with, so don't count me on that. But we'll see how it goes through the season. I'm excited.
Well, Godspeed, soldier.
Yeah, right. It's not my money I'm betting with, but I do get to keep it if I win.
There you go.
So I'm excited for that. All right. It's game week. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Appreciate you listening. Go listen to all our other stuff and follow our coverage all week. And we'll see you on Saturday.
Beat UNI.